Hello, math fans and SAT reviewers. Let's talk about some SAT problems. So, this is video 6 in Module 3, where we talk about problems 18, 19, and 20. So, let's get to it. So, you might remember that I have review videos for Module 1 and Module 2 if you've been watching any of my review tapes. Review videos. I've got several of them, 1 to 27 in both modules. So I've got 54, actually more than that because I'm in the middle of doing module 3 right now. So we probably have about 60 or so that have been uploaded. You can go in and look at the playlist once you subscribe to my channel. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, do it now because I want to help you. These practice problems have been released by the College Board for review for these important tests. Some problems will be easier, some will be harder. It just depends on how strong of a math student you are and how good your teachers were in the high school algebra, geometry, and the other high school classes before you took this test. The topics vary from question to question. I do not have them in lists of topics. I have them listed in problems 1 to 27, the way that the review tests were prepared for students. All right, I do have a long link here for my YouTube channel. Please go and subscribe if you haven't already. There are links that you can find either on this screen or after you finish watching this video. If you'd like to contact me, ask me a question. Here's my email address, askmrchu@gmail.com. Let's get to our problems now. So you can always pause this video and get out a piece of paper, see if you can work them, get the right answer. Problems 18 and 19 are multiple choice problems. Number 18, the product of two positive integers is 546. If the first integer is 11 greater than twice the second integer, what's the smaller of the two integers? So it's asking you for the smaller one. There's lots of steps in this problem. So I've got to assign the variables first. You always need to do this. So let's just call x the first integer, y the second integer. So if x is 11 greater than twice the second integer, write the equation. So we would write x equals twice, which is 2 times the second one, y, plus 11, because it's greater than the other one. All right. The other equation, if the product of the two integers is 546, and I write the product, which is xy, or x times y, equaling 546. So I'm going to now substitute this value of x, 2y plus 11, right here in this equation. So that's my first step. So I just substituted. This ends up being my x because we're saying x equals this. So now we're going to use what's called the distributive property. So the distributive property says that I'm going to take and multiply that y times the 2y and then the y times the 11. So the 2y times y is 2y squared, and the 11 times y is 11y, and that equals 546. Now what do I need to do? Well, I'm going to use the subtraction. POE means property of equality, which means I'm going to subtract the same number from both sides, which is 546. And simplify it. So why do I do that? Because I need to get a quadratic equaling 0 so I can use the 0 multiplication property rule. So this crosses out over here and gives me a 0 on the right. And I can't combine like terms, so I just write 2y squared plus 11y minus 546 equals 0. Now I'm going to factor this. Now there's two ways that you could do this. You could factor it. There's more than two, but the two simple ways are factoring or using the quadratic formula. So when I factor this, I get y minus 14 times y 2y plus 39 equaling 0. Once I do that, and there are videos in my YouTube channel where I explain how to factor. So subscribe and then check them out if you need to review that. And remember, if I were to use FOIL and multiply the first, the outer, the inner, the last, and combine like terms, I would end up getting this expression here. All right. So now I use the zero property of multiplication where I say that y minus 14 equals 0 or 2y plus 39 equals 0. And I'm going to solve each. So I'm going to add 14 to both sides here on this one. And then when I add 14, I get y equals 14. On this one, I'm going to subtract a 39, then divide by 2. And I'm going to get y equals negative 39 over 2. And it says y must be a positive integer. Where did I get that from? Up here, the product of two positive integers. So I don't use the negative 39 over 2. I use the 14 and substitute it back in to this xy equals 546. Okay, so when I substitute that in, I get x times 14 equals 546. So I divide both sides by 14. It cancels here, and I get x equals 39. So it's asking you which one's smaller, the 14 or the 39. So that would be choice B because 14 is smaller than 39. Lots of steps in that one. Hopefully you were able to get it right. Now let's go to number 19. Number 19 says, if I have two inequalities, which create what's called a system of inequalities, which point xy is a solution to the given system of inequalities in an xy plane? So there's two ways that you can approach this problem. Either you graph the system of inequalities and see which of these four are in the double intersection part, or you're going to substitute each point to find the solution that works. Most students are going to want to substitute. So I'll show you how you do that one. So now I'm going to try the negative 14, 0 as my xy. Remember, the negative 14 is going to be the x, and the 0 is going to be the y. Remember, you always write your equations as xy's in the coordinates for an xy coordinate plane. So in that first, for A, I'm going to take, here's my x, here's my y, and I'm going to plug it in. So I'm going to put a 0 here, and I'm going to put a negative 14 here, and I'm going to see if that's true or false. So 0 less than or equal to negative 14 plus 7. Well, negative 14 plus 7 ends up being 0. Is 0 less than or equal to 7? No, it's false. What does that mean? That means I can rule A out. Could have you graphed it? Yes. We didn't have an easy coordinate plane to do it in. So for B now, so now I've got a 0 and a negative 14. So my 0 is going to be my x. I'll put it right here. The negative 14 goes here. So we actually flipped the x and the y is what we did from what we did in A. So I've got my negative 14, which is my y, less than or equal to 0, which is my x, plus 7. So negative 14 less than 7 is true. So now, since the first one is true, now I've got to try to plug it into the second one. You notice I didn't even try the second one for A because it has to be true in both of them to make it the solution. So now we take the second equation, which is y greater than or equal to negative 2x minus 1, and I substitute the 0, negative 14. Remember, the 0 is going to go in where the x is, and the negative 14 where the y is. So I substitute those, and I get negative 2, or negative 14 greater than or equal to negative 14 is my y, greater than or equal to negative 2 times my x is negative 14 minus 1. So I substitute those values in, and I get negative 14 greater than or equal to a negative times a negative is a positive 28. Well, is negative 14 greater than or equal to 28 minus 1, which is 27? No, that's false. So since that's false, now I just ruled out B. And sometimes just trying each solution is the easiest way to figure out whether that is the solution or not. So now we try C. So now I've got the point 0, 14 as my xy. So I'm going to put a 14 in here, a 0 in here for the x, 14 for the y. So is 14 less than or equal to 0 plus 7? Is 14 less than or equal to 7? Nope, that's false. So by default, I'm going to say the answer is D. But instead of just quitting right now, let's plug in D and see if it did really work for both of them. So I put the 14, 0, xy. So I'm going to put a 0 here and a 14 here. 0 less than or equal to 14 plus 7. 0 less than or equal to 21 is true. Now I'm going to plug it into the y greater than or equal to negative 2x minus 1. I'm going to put a 0 here and a 14 here for my y and my x. So 0 greater than or equal to negative 2 times 14 minus 1. So 0 greater than or equal to negative 28 minus 1, which is negative 29. Is 0 greater than or equal to negative 29? It sure is. That's true. So it will be choice D. Wow, that took some time, didn't it? It sure did. And some of your problems will take some time when you get to the SAT. All right, number 20. If you need to pause this, please go ahead and do. Work it out. What is the smallest solution to the given equation? So anytime you have equations that have square roots or radicals in them, how do you solve it? You solve it by squaring both sides because the squaring it is the inverse of square roots. So I take, and what I actually do, I square this side. And I'm going to show you the way most videos deal with this. So I square this side and I square this side. Well, they will say that the square root and the square cancels. The square root, I squared it here, and the square cancels. So I just get what's in the middle here. X minus 2 quantity squared equals what's in the middle, 3x plus 34. So now I'm going to have to solve that by foiling the left side or squaring it. And remember, all that means is I'm taking my x minus 2 times my x minus 2 and foiling it. Now, there's also a shortcut to this where you're just going to know that you take your x times your x squared, and double the negative 2x because we're going to add another negative 2x to it. And that was a special product. So x squared minus 4x plus 4 is this number foiled. And you could do it over here where you foil it to get our x squared. I'm going to write that down a little bit lower because it's going to get in the way if I have it there. So there's our x squared. My O is outer, which is negative 2x. My I is inner, which is negative 2x. And my L is last, which is plus 4. And you see, when we combine these like terms, I'm going to get my negative 4x here. Okay? All right. So now I'm going to use the subtraction property of equality to move the 3x from the right to the left, and that crosses out, okay? Then after that, we're simplifying it. So I've got my minus 4x minus 3x, which is minus 7x. I bring the plus 4 down, bring the x squared down. This cancels out, and I just have 34. Now I'm going to subtract the 34 from both sides using the subtraction property of equality. POE means property of equality. So it cancels out here, and I'm going to get my 0 here, and I'm going to bring my x squared down, my minus 7x, and then I'm going to have minus 30. Okay, so all I did there was simplify that. Now I need to factor the binomial or use the quadratic formula. And it factors to x minus 10 times x plus 3 equaling 0. And there are videos in my YouTube channel that will explain how to factor that. Then I use the zero product property to solve for x. So I know that either x minus 10 equals 0 or my x plus 3 equals 0. That's what the zero property means. And now I'm going to solve each for x. So I'm going to add 10 to both sides here. Subtract 3 from both sides here. Solving those one-step equations. The first one where I'm adding 10 is called the addition POE, property of equality. And then when I subtract 3 from both sides is subtraction POE, subtraction property of equality. So this crosses out here, and I got x equals 10. This crosses out here, I got x equals negative 3. All I did there was simplify that. So it says, what is the smallest solution to the given equation? Negative 3 is smaller than 10 and is the smallest solution. So negative 3 is my answer. That is my answer. Okay. This has been kind of a long one because when you have to try all four in a long problem like in that system of inequalities, it takes some time. All right. So remember to follow me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and X. I have lots of math videos and puppy videos on all of those. There's a link to the video of all 27 problems in Module 1, Module 2, and we are up to number 20 now. So now there is 54 plus 20, 74 different problems and videos that I've worked to help you review for this important test. Here is a link to my YouTube channel if you want to type that in the browser. There are also subscribe links because it helps me when you subscribe because I can get more people help with my videos. If you need to send me a question, an email question, I will answer it, and I will actually even do a video for you if you request it. Help spread the word that Mr. Chu will help students with math. I want to help you with math. I want to help you with algebra, geometry, arithmetic, pre-algebra. I want to help you get ready for the SAT, the ASVAB, the ACT. I want to help you overall in all of math. And I have lots of videos. I call Bare Algebra my specific algebra curriculum, Brack Geometry, my geometry curriculum. Those are named after my two puppy dogs. I do have a cat. He's a 4-year-old tomcat by the name of Trey. That's what I call my arithmetic and pre-algebra. I have shorter videos called Math Minutes that I do at the whiteboard and on the computer you can check out. And I also have these SAT preps. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, let anybody know that needs help that I'm Mr. Chu. I have videos to help you. So subscribe and check out my next video, and I'll see you then.